Hello and welcome to the True Symposium series. My name is Randy Leopando. I am the Training and Education Manager here at True. I am live at our beautiful showroom in Lake St. Louis, and for our 7th episode, we're going to go over that guy back there, the True Stretch. I'll talk a little bit about the history and how that thing came about. I'll talk about the structural components of it, and I'll briefly go into what the whole concept of functional flexibility is with regard to that thing, and how it can be a benefit of your club or facility or wherever it may be. So let's get started. This logo, so we launched a new logo at IRSA 2019, which was last year. Sorry we missed you for IRSA 2020, but we launched this new logo, which I have on the shirt here. And this triangle here actually symbolizes or has embedded in it a few different meanings. One of them that relates today is the 3 corners of fitness, which is strength, cardio, and flexibility. So obviously we're going to be talking about flexibility today, and that's how I tie that in there. So the True Stretch history. Back in the early 2000s, a physical therapist by the name of Gary Gray came up with the original design of a stretch cage. Gary Gray, he actually started kind of filtering into the fitness industry with the whole functional training concept, which is popular today. So this was the early 2000s. And at the time, when he was discovering this whole functional flexibility concept, he was working a lot with golfers. And he realized that these golfers were not warming up or stretching out appropriately or properly or specific to their sport. So then, of course, that applied to all walks of life. Well, he got to talking to Frank Truelas, which is our owner and CEO here, and lo and behold, the True Stretch was born. And 17 plus years later, it's still a relevant piece of equipment that you're going to find in physical therapy and chiropractor clinics, large membership-based gyms, YMCAs, JCCAs, college rec centers, corporate wellness centers, multi-family housing, all sorts of places, hotels, resorts, sports-specific training facilities, even some homes have it. Oh, and professional teams, which is pretty cool. Our professional team here, our baseball team, the Cardinals, they got 2 stretch cages at the stadium in their bullpens, so that's pretty cool. So I guess let's get up close and personal to the stretch cage here. And if you have any questions regarding the stretch cage, go ahead and type them in, because I have Colin here with us, who's one of our marketing coordinators. She's going to be fielding those questions, and you're going to hear her voice later on. And of course, behind the camera is Steven, so I'm going to be referring to him every now and then to get a better camera angle. So let's get up and close to this stretch cage, Steven. So looking at the piece, it's not that big of a footprint. It's about 4 feet wide. You'll need about 5 feet in depth. And this model is about 7 feet tall. It's made of some heavy gauge steel, I think 11 gauge steel. And there's some heavy duty welds on these bars. So I know this looks, when people first see this, they kind of have mixed reactions. Mostly, what the heck is that thing? And looks like a torture device. But really, all these bars that you see here serve as grab handles or grab points. And the way this is designed is to be able to have someone stretch standing in an upright position, which is much more functional, and to have 4 points of contact. So your feet will be in contact with the platform, and then you have your hands to be in contact with any point on this apparatus. And it's either to help you with your balance and support you, or to help facilitate certain types of techniques in the stretching, which I'll get to in just a moment. Some other things to take note of. All the True Stretches come with a placard. And this placard, this is a club version. Oh, I do need to point out that we do offer 3 types of stretch cages. One is the club version, which is what we have here. We have a golf version, which is really the same structure, but it has a different placard. And then we have a Pro Edition, which is about 7 to 8 inches taller to accommodate taller users. I think actually There are some NBA players that have this in their homes, and some NBA teams and college teams have this at their training facilities as well. Back to the placard. So our club version placard has 30 exercises already on it. So that's great for facilities that don't have any supervision. There's already a group of exercises or stretches that they can follow safely. There are also 8 different stretch programs that's built in that's going to instruct you what stretches to do. It's labeled. So for example, there's a program for someone who's finished running or walking. There's a cycling one, strength training lower body, there's strength training upper body, racket sports, aerobics, golf, yoga, and Pilates even. So it comes with the unit, which is really nice. The unit itself can withstand 500 pounds, but the unit itself really actually doesn't weigh much. It's under 200 pounds, so it's easy to move. And as you can see in our showroom here, it's tucked away in a corner, so it's not even really in the way necessarily. So it's a win for any type of facility, really. So the concept of flexibility and functional flexibility. When we think of flexibility, a lot of times we think of stretching an individual body part or muscle. So Stephen, I'll have you come around this way, and I'll just give an example of how you can just do traditional stretches on this thing. I'll do a hamstring stretch, for example. So I'll prop my leg up here on the raised angled platform here, and obviously if I lean forward, I do a basic. I've got a basic hamstring stretch. I've got all these bars here to provide support if I need it. And here's your basic stretch. Now notice that I'm only moving in one plane of motion. So in terms of functional flexibility or functional training, we all know that the body moves in 3 planes of motion. That's the whole premise behind functional training. The 3 planes of motion, so there's forward and back. There's side to side, which is the frontal plane, the forward and back is sagittal. And there's any time that there's rotation involved, and that's a transverse plane. So now let me show you that functional flexibility concept of the 3 planes or the multi-plane in terms of the hamstring stretch. So here's the hamstring stretch. I'm going to go ahead and lean forward. That's a sagittal plane, get the basic stretch. Now if I want to add a frontal plane component to this hamstring stretch, I can simply reach over, laterally side bend, and I can hold this stretch, grab onto the true stretch cage here on the bar, and I can either hold it or I can do kind of a pulsing motion, or I like to call just basic repetitions. And now you can actually do flexibility exercises within your exercise circuit. I've done that a lot of times for clients who have flexibility and mobility goals. We'll treat this as an actual exercise machine in their circuit. So there's the hamstring stretch, boom, with the frontal plane. And now if I want to add the transverse component, I can twist and twist my trunk, hold the stretch, lean forward a little bit, and now I've taken care of the transverse plane. And you can also do a combination of both, transverse, twist, lean over, because really the reality is we move in all different planes and not just one single plane. So there's kind of a quick cliff notes of what the functional flexibility component of all this, the multi-plane stretching, if you will. And let me show you some other ones. I got some other stretches to show you because recently I've been sitting around a lot at a desk at my computer, so certain things have gotten tight on me, namely my hip flexors, because I'm sitting all the time. That shortens up, right? So let me show you a hip flexor stretch. There's several you can do in here, but here's the most basic one. I'm going to put my foot up here on this angled platform. I'll keep the back leg straight, and I'm just going to lean forward. So there's your basic hip flexor stretch. This is your basic sagittal plane movement. But let's add a frontal plane component. Here I'm laterally side bending, very similar to the hamstring stretch. And now let me twist and get the transverse component. I feel a different stretch on my hip flexors and all the muscles involved every time I turn my body a certain direction. So there's a hip flexor one. My next favorite, I call all these stretches of mine, since I've been sitting at a desk, the desk jockey stretches or exercise program. This other one actually looks like it's really good for anyone who plays any rotational sport, namely golf. So this stretch here does a ton. So let's start from the ground up. If I turn my hips just a little bit, I've got some hip activity in my external rotators in my hips, stretching. As I move up the body here, I'm getting a little twist in my upper spine, thoracic spine. On this shoulder right here, I got a posterior delt stretch going on, especially if I turn my body this way. I'm adding that little transverse component, my posterior delt stretching. Up on this arm here, I've got my pec, I've got some bicep going on there, and again, I can turn and rotate. And this stretch, the two stretches I just showed you, actually the three so far that I've showed you, are actually on this placard too. And finally, I got one more stretch to show you. A lot of times when we're on our desk, or sitting at our desk, I mean, not on our desk, we are kind of hunched forward, shoulders rounded, head forward. We've got gravity compressing down on our spine, gravity making these neck and shoulder muscles work extra because we got to hold our head up. So we can do a thing called distraction, which is kind of a form of traction, where you can just grab somewhere on top here, wherever you can reach, and I'm gonna do like a dead arm hang, but what's nice is that my feet are still in contact with the ground, because some people can't just hang with their full body weight because they either don't have the grip strength or they're just not used to that. So I got my feet to regulate my body weight. I'm going to look up to counter the forward head posture that I did, and I'm just gonna hang. And guess what? If I want to add a slight transverse component, I can turn my body a little bit, and it's gonna decompress different things in my back, different areas of my back. It's gonna decompress different areas in my shoulder girdle. So it's a really nice stretch to kind of open you back up after you've been sitting for hours in front of that computer. So that's the whole little flexibility explanation of what you can do on the true stretch. So let's see if I hit on everything else here regarding functional stretching and traditional stretching. So I guess I can move on to kind of what I want to reach out to my trainer compadres out there. So the true stretch, if you're not used to, or let me take a step back. If you are used to training people and hands-on type modalities or hands-on type techniques for your client's flexibility, this day and age, you may not be able to do that as much anymore. We might have to be practicing some social distancing to stay safe for you and your client. This would be a great tool for that, because now you can have your client step into the stretch cage. You can step away at an appropriate distance and instruct them verbally on different stretches you want them to do. There's also the placard there that they can use and you can make reference to, and you can do their whole flexibility routine inside this dedicated space. For the trainer who's not really accustomed to doing flexibility work with their clients, we all know that that's important. So maybe this is a good time for you to actually start, because you've got 30 exercises there already that you can do, and kind of get started and go that way. You can also practice yourself because all the exercises are right there. For any facility, first of all, there's no moving parts. So this thing is durable and it's built to last. And you don't have to really maintain it except for just the basic cleaning and disinfecting procedures that you normally do with your equipment anyway. You can use the same cleaners that you do on your cardio and strength equipment on the stretch. And again, for facilities that don't have supervision, there are instructions on that placard. For the facilities for the really busy facilities, you're offering a dedicated space for your members to stretch. They know they can come in here and do flexibility, because the reality is all the stretches that I showed you, I can probably do and rig up in the gym using a bench, maybe using a bar or a Smith machine, but then you are preventing other people from being able to use those machines at what they're intended for. So it's a dedicated stretch machine. There are some other facilities I want to mention that actually have like 5 or 6 of these lined up side by side, and they do like small group training on this, which is really cool. Small group mobility and flexibility training. Or I've seen it to where they've done sessions, a small group HIIT session, then they do a cool down on the stretch cage. Really cool. And they can go side by side too, and then they look really nice together. Well, that was fast and furious there. I guess if I can open up the floor for any questions that you may have.
We don't have any questions at the moment.
Thank you, Colin. Colin says there's no questions at the moment, but I'll wait just a little bit longer. So really just want to point out that this piece, after it being in circulation for 17 years, it's still relevant. It's taking care of, or it's accommodating all the different buzzwords that are in the industry today trending, like recovery, corrective exercise, functional training, flexibility, mobility. It's still relevant. It's great. I mentioned of all the places that it's in, and able to fit nicely into a corner, just like we see here. And you know, it's a great piece. As I mentioned earlier, I've worked on it for 15 years as a trainer, and it's a valuable tool for flexibility training.
Oh, hold on. We have one question from Kiran. How important is this stretch machine for golf players?
The question is, how important is this stretch machine for golf players? Well, the origins of its design came from training golfers. It's really, really important because now you're able to train in different ways, rotationally and also functionally. So let's take, for example, when you're golfing, you're in an upright position. If I am in the address position here, you can get in that position here and then now move in certain ways to warm up your body, get your body ready for it. There's a whole other science behind not just training your muscles, but your nervous system and your neuromuscular system. And it's more than just the muscles and soft tissues around a joint. It's huge for golfers.
All right, we have another question from Mark. How much floor space does this take up?
Well, it's about 4 feet wide and 5 feet deep. So 4 by 5 space, 7 feet for height that you'll need.
And that's all our questions.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining me on this 7th episode of our webinar series. Stay tuned on our social media, our Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, for our next webinar, episode number 8. In the meantime, if you have any questions on a stretch, you can look us up at truefitness.com. You can locate or get in touch with your local rep. We can help you locate a local rep as well. And in the meantime, stay safe and stay healthy.